Greetings everyone and welcome back to another video. Now, today is going to be a little bit different. I'd say it as if this is content I've never done before. I've done a tier list previously for many things. Also Gothic related. I did a tier list on pretty much all the Piranha Bytes games. Yeah, there's that at least. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different, but more incisive with my channel itself. Is a mod tier list for Gothic 2. This is specifically for any Vanilla Plus / total conversions, and it's only the list of mods I've played, obviously, because I can't rate a game I haven't played. So there's definitely like Lobos, Legends of Ashun, Dirty Swamp. Those are like mods I haven't played yet. I'd love to get into it, but right now I just have other things. So by the time I'm finished with those mods, I'll be able to dive into a new tier list, which I'll probably do in 2-3 years later. And then it will be like the total legitness tier list. Remember, this is all subjective. Don't take it to heart. Everyone's opinion is different. Because I noticed that my tier lists are always the most disliked videos, but I can understand why. It's because I'm challenging everyone's fucking opinion and they think it's fact immediately. We've got around 9 mods. It's the Nostalgic Edition, the Atariar Edition, the Gold Remaster, Lever Edition, Renovation, Archolos, New Balance, Odyssey, and Golden Gate 2. I'll also try not to have recency bias because I did finish 2 specific mods pretty recently. So, starting up, we've got Nostalgic Edition. Now, I have to actually be thankful in a way for Nostalgic Edition because I used to do like every 3-4 years playthrough of Gothic 2, pure vanilla. I wasn't that interested in modding Gothic. After trying Nostalgic Edition, it really reignited my love for the games even more. And it's also the one playthrough I made on my channel that decided to change this channel half towards more Gothic content. So in a way, I'd love to put it in S tier. I think the addition of companions in the game does trivialize a lot of points within it. It also in some ways feels somewhat incomplete and odd to have certain companions in the game, especially because you can have like 2 or 3, maybe even more companions. By the time I used 2 companions, I was like, I don't want to do this because I never really found Night of the Raven that difficult, and then to also add a companion that can take aggro and make everything easier, it's not that much fun. It adds up the swamp and some areas from Gothic 1 back into the second engine, or the second game, it's the same engine. So it does expand a little bit on it, but there's not much content besides just killing a few enemies here and there. So all in all, I think it's a great mod. I don't think it's S tier worthy, but it's definitely, if you're looking for like a vanilla plus experience, I would definitely recommend to try out Nostalgic Edition because it does have everything and a little bit more. But obviously that little bit more can be subjective. So, but for me, it's going to be on A tier. I'm also going to rank them from left to right. So if I would put them like this, I'd still place Nostalgic Edition a little bit higher. We've got Atariar Edition. Now this is a playthrough I've not done on my channel. I won't probably do it because I've already played the mod myself until the end. It's sort of the same premise as Nostalgic Edition in a weird way. It doesn't add the companions. It does add some extra areas within the vanilla world itself. It feels incomplete in some way, and I don't think it has been updated in a while. There's also a couple bugs that do become an issue because I don't want to go too in depth with the bug system that happened in that fucking mod, but basically there is a way to get infinite XP without having to do anything special, because they screwed something up in the coding for a journal update, and you can reiterate the same 100 XP over and over again, and it takes like 2 seconds to get the 100 XP, and it does make the game just very trivial because you're gonna have to try and not go through a certain section in the game to get that 100 XP at all times. In a way, I feel like it's still very incomplete. I think it works well somewhat as a vanilla plus experience, but I feel like I'd rather recommend Nostalgic Edition and, for example, not use the companions, because I did do a playthrough of Nostalgic Edition. However, I've played it again about 2 or 3 more times, but I've not used the companions afterwards, and I feel like it does make the experience a little bit better. So all in all, for Atariar, I'm gonna put it on the C tier. I just don't feel it was that good enough, and it wasn't really worth another playthrough for me. Even though I did try it, I did try a second playthrough. So I shouldn't be talking like that. The Gold Remaster. I think the Gold Remaster is pretty much really Vanilla Plus. Maybe just like 1+. If Gold Remaster is Vanilla Plus, then Atariar and Nostalgic are Plus. But Gold Remaster is really just Vanilla Plus. They've added a couple extra mechanics, but nothing too much. And it's mostly just a graphical update. So in a way, if you don't want any of the extra additions that Nostalgic and Atariar has given to you through mods, then the Gold Remaster is pretty much the way to go. That being said though, I wasn't a big fan of the graphical aspect of the game. I think it added too much vegetation, too big, by the way. I think in my playthrough I was complaining a lot about not being able to see shit because the leaves were the size of a fucking tree and I could sometimes just not see ahead of me. And it wasn't really that much fun. Some parts were visually pleasing, other parts were not so. So, I don't know. I'm very inconclusive about the Gold Remaster. But that being said, I do enjoy Nostalgic a bit more than Gold Remaster, so by that standard, I will probably place the Gold Remaster on a B tier. But it is definitely still, if you don't really care about modding in general, and you just want to improve the game a little bit, then yeah, I would have placed it in S tier for the people that are interested in checking out mods. But this tier list shouldn't be a way to figure out what these mods do. that should be done in another video. This is just my opinion after playing them. The Remaster Edition, it's a bit of a controversial opinion. It's also a hard opinion because there's multiple editions. Remaster 2.0 is completely different from Masty's version. And there's also, I think, a Polish version. And there's a Russian version. There's also been a German version that has another German version. There's a lot of versions. Now, I personally have only played Masty. As someone who enjoys the combat in Gothic 2, the problem with Remaster I find is that it is excruciatingly, I don't know how to say the word, difficult throughout the entire game. If there's one thing I love about Gothic, it's the sense of progression in a way. I don't want the progression to be early. I also don't want it to be super late. And I think Gothic 2, specifically Night of the Raven, did it really well. I think Gothic 2 Classic and Gothic 1 is too easy in a way, and I feel like you're always overpowered. It's kind of biased because I somewhat know what to do in the games, and I guess for someone that's very new to them, it's going to probably be like punishing. But I feel like obviously after you know everything, then yeah, you'll be fine. I've played Remaster multiple times, and every time I still am punished. I definitely feel like Remaster Edition is for the masochist people. I wasn't able to enjoy it. It was too difficult at all times, and it was to the point that it was just getting frustrating. And I say this as someone who enjoys the New Balance gameplay, which other people find hard, but I find it a little bit easy. But Remaster for me has always been a bit of an issue. So, yeah. And because of that, I'm gonna place it on bottom C tier, I think. I don't think it's that bad to put it on D tier, but specifically Masty's version, I was never really a big fan of. I should have probably placed it on the list. I've played the 1.3 Pure Edition, which I think just has the 1.3 Remaster version without any of the extra modifications that was added later on. And I think that's just great. I think that was just nice. It does get a little bit easier at the end, sadly, because there's more content. However, there is no gameplay changes, so you have way more XP and way more items and way more gold. But I feel like it's just a fun experience in general. I feel like if they would balance out the Pure Edition to make it just a tiny bit harder, just a little bit, then I feel like that one would be, to me, one of the best Remaster versions to be out there. Next up, now you can't really see it through the titles, but this is Renovation, which I feel like is the Christmas spirit of Gothic, because it changes the complete world to snow. There is a bit of extra content that Renovation adds. There's a lot of bonuses, which I really enjoyed in the game. However, my one point being in the Renovation. Now, if you haven't played it, it could be a spoiler, doesn't matter otherwise. If you have played it, you'll know what I'll be talking about. In Renovation, there's a certain undead area in the Valley of Mines. There's a small storyline that is just an extra side quest. You could technically completely ignore it, but you'd be missing out, so why not? The writing was abysmal. It was too... There's fan fiction and then there's like bad fan fiction, and that was really like bad fan fiction. It felt like it was written by a 9-year-old, maybe an 8-year-old. So I really couldn't enjoy the writing, and I decided not to skip through any of it and just muster through it, because it's not really a long storyline, but it was just like, what the fuck? Why did they do this? It's also just... maybe it's because I did it early, because I tried to finish that area within the 3rd or 4th chapter, and it was very difficult. But I've seen some playthroughs of Renovation where they did it afterwards, at least around chapter 4 or 5, and it seemed more doable. But in general, bro, they just decided to be like, you know what? Again, let's bring back the super hard difficulty to fuck everyone over. And let's place it in this one area that's very new to the mod. And that's it. So in general, I feel like the extra additions to the mod, like the bonuses, is pretty nice. I think the extra story bit was very meh. I didn't really enjoy it. I didn't feel that thrilling. And so for that reason, I will place it below Atariar still, and above Liver. Next up, Archolos. Now this is a D tier. No, please wait. Stop with the downvotes. I beg. I'm not done yet. Hear me out. No, I'm kidding. I recently played it as well, again for the 2nd time. I think it is one of the best things that has happened to Gothic in general. I think it brought a lot of love for a ton of people back, because Gothic has had a very rocky reputation overall, especially the developers, and people will stray away from it. There will be some diehard fans that will always love Gothic and they'll play it every now and then, but some people just move on because they're like, I don't want to associate myself with this story anymore because it's going to be unfinished. We'll never know what happened to the heroes. Gothic died with Gothic 3, but 15 years ago Gothic died with Arcania. Gothic died with Risen 2, and it's like, bro, it's not even the same game, but it's still apparently it still fucks up Gothic. Like every game that they made afterwards, except for Arcana, because that was made by Spellbound, every game they made afterwards was like, yeah, this is the death. Gothic ain't never coming back. And then Archolos was like the holy fucking grail. And Archolos returned in the time when no one looked back on it, and everyone fell in love with it again. But talking about the game itself, it's amazing. I really like it. I do have to say, if I have to be a little bit of a, if I have to show some complaints, is that it felt very linear, specifically in the first 2 chapters. And I feel like for someone that knows how the Gothic games work, it's sort of detrimental to their experience. If someone was to play Archolos before any of the other Gothic games, they're probably used to it, because nowadays quests are made in such a way that you have to follow A, B, C, D. You can't do C, D first and then B later. And once you go to quest A, that asks you to do B, C, D. You've already done it, so you might as well just talk to the guy and get all your XP. It doesn't always work with Archolos. In Archolos, a lot of the things you need spawn by the time you get to quest A, and it will spawn item B, C, D. But even if you know the location beforehand and go in there first, it doesn't work. There's no human, there's no object, there's nothing to grab. So you're forced to sort of, if someone needs a specific plant, that plant is not going to spawn in unless you talk to the guy that spawns the plant in after the download. Now I'm probably sure it's made to make sure the game doesn't have bugs, especially because I feel like Archolos really tested the limits of the engine, and it's done very well. So yeah, story-wise, I wouldn't say Archolos' strong point is the story. It felt very mediocre. The ending I never really liked at all. I feel like that's more of a fan service in a way to try and tie in with the Gothic games. Like, oh, this is what this is what happened before the Gothic games, stuff like that. I wasn't really a big fan of it. I just wanted Archolos to kind of be separate in its own way. But yeah, no, I think in my opinion, Archolos was one of the best things that has happened to the modern community, and I hope it sets up a certain quality requirement to how people are going to perceive mods in the future. Because I definitely am looking for mods that have somewhat the same polishing as Archolos. Not maybe the same quality, but I feel like everyone needs to strive to be like Archolos and even better. Because I feel like that can still be done way more than what Archolos did. I'm positive of that. It's an S tier for me. Next up, I didn't really have an image, so I just picked up the main menu. It's returning. New Balance, specifically. So I'm not going to be talking about returning, because I know that that's an older mod. I'm talking about New Balance. I'm a little bit biased, because I fucking love New Balance. I think, gameplay-wise, it's the best mod for Gothic. And I feel like every single mod needs to have the same sort of gameplay loop that New Balance has. It adds so many more classes. There's a lot of replay value because everything plays differently. There's a lot of difficulty options if you really want to, but otherwise even normal can be punishing to some, and it'll be challenging enough. There's definitely that overpowered feeling near the end, so I feel like that's always very nice. The one downside I have to New Balance still specifically is that there's a ton of unnecessary quests in a way. I feel like you could easily remove 50 quests from the game and the experience of New Balance would still be amazing. Even better. I think some systems can be removed, some quests can be removed, and it'll make the experience of New Balance a little bit better. But I personally love it. To me, New Balance is so far, based on the ones I've played in total, the best mod, actually. Yeah, I think it's been polished well enough. I feel like if they do remove some of the quests, it'll be a bit better. Now, don't take it to heart when it comes to my newest playthrough, because I used a certain ini file code to bring back old quests, because they removed around 30 quests, and it's all for the best. I just added it for the sake of a playthrough, just to make it super long and expansive for people to enjoy. But otherwise, if I'll be playing on my own time, I will be removing those quests. I would also be removing the Guardians questline, which has been done. And I feel like it's kind of for the better, because it just was there was too much fan fiction towards it. And I feel like it was very unnecessary. So without those 30 extra quests and without the Guardians, I feel like that's almost the best experience you can have for Gothic 2 when it comes to a total conversion. Because I don't really see New Balance as a vanilla plus. There's too much that's been added to the game. Too many additions. But everyone is just interested to see where I'm going to be placing New Balance. Hear me out, alright? I know this is the part where everyone's going to be thinking, what the fuck are you doing? But to me, specifically, New Balance is on the top. Yeah. I'm basing this off the fact that I've played Archolos twice and I've played New Balance about 20 times. Maybe not 20, 10 or 15, something like that. But I have replayed it and I've spent, I think, close to 1,000 hours on just that mod alone. And I'm probably still missing things. That's what I mean with it's so fucking huge. Anyways. But these ones could be switched over. Like, they're just very close to each other. Next up, we've got Odyssey. I think Im Auftrag des Königs. If I butchered that, I'm sorry. Für den König. That's what you hear most of the time when you play Odyssey, because the game is in German as far as I'm aware. Odyssey is another game I haven't actually recorded. I also will have to be honest, I never finished it, But I do want to say I've got near the end, because I stopped around the time I was at the Valley of Mines. And I think after the Valley of Mines there's only Irdorath again, and that's pretty much it. So I've been through all the extra fucking islands. I've been through Verant, Khorinis again. I've been through Myrtana, because you had to visit Vanguard. You had to go through most of the areas from Gothic 3, and then also Nordmar. And after Nordmar, I believe you go to the Valley of Mines, and then one more location, and then the game is done. Odyssey is a game that has the additions of New Balance, but not the gameplay loop that New Balance offers. So in a way, it does make it the game punishingly hard, especially if you want to choose a harder option. Now this was my fault because I was confident in myself and I played on a harder difficulty for Odyssey. Now I like the mod. I have some fond memories of it. The issue I have with Odyssey is that I just can't play it without a guide. If I don't have the guide next to me, I'm going to break the game and I will basically screw myself over in terms of progression. In fact, in the early bits of the game, I didn't use the guide. But there was a certain section in like the second or third island you visit where you need to get golem hearts. I, with my typical Gothic experience, cleared the entire map before knowing about this quest. I had no information. I didn't know this quest existed. So what happens, right, is that I need to get those hearts. I go back to the mines thinking, okay, after talking to the NPC, it will probably spawn a couple extra golems. No, it doesn't. So the problem I had is I cleared the entire map, but I didn't get the skill to get the hearts. But the golems didn't respawn after the conversation. I would have assumed that was a thing because it happens with many mods. If you need to kill this or you need to kill that and there's nothing left, enemies respawn. I wouldn't say respawn, but they spawn extra. And if there's already enemies there, then they will spawn extra, so there's going to be even more enemies there. But Odyssey didn't have that. So the issue I had was I had to use the cheats very often to get items in order to progress the story, because I didn't read the guide. Because apparently you're supposed to read the guide, and if you don't read the guide, you screw yourself over. I did the same thing with Khorinis in the city, because it was invaded by the orcs. I also soft-locked myself there, and I had to do even more things to fix the issue. And there's been about 10 times through my entire playthrough of Odyssey where I felt like I wanted to quit. But I persevered, and I kept going, because I wanted to see how all the other maps would look like, because they are really expansive, big, and new. Like, you get to go to fucking Myrtana. I don't even know which other mod explores Myrtana, but you get to go to Verant, Myrtana, and Nordmar. They don't look like the Gothic 3 game. They're still massive. They're very big places. So much content. I think I spent 200 to 300 hours before finally saying, I had enough. I'm tired. I don't know. I'm very indecisive again about Odyssey, because I feel like if it just has a bit more polishing, it could potentially be S tier. Because the story I find to be actually very decent. I was very intrigued by the story, and it's one of the things that kept me going. The story of Odyssey is actually very fucking good. And I really like the addition of so many maps, of being able to travel back and forth whenever you want to revisit those areas. And it's one of the, I don't even know if it's the biggest mod, but it might be one of the mods that has the most areas in the game. Like, I don't think anything else challenges it, but I haven't played enough mods probably to figure it out. But again, the need of a guide does throw away the beautiful experience that Gothic has, because you're looking at your second monitor most of the time, and you need to be a fucking mathematician to figure out what the correct order of things are in order to make sure you don't butcher your playthrough. So for that reason, I'm going to place Odyssey on the bottom of B tier. Now for the final mod of this list, and I'd love to do another tier list in the future, once I've played many more mods, but for now we only have like 9 mods, which I think it's still a lot for Gothic, I'll be honest. But we have Golden Gate 2 God is Hard. Again, it could be some very, very biased because I played it recently. I think the story of Golden Gate 2 God is Hard is really well made. I think the gameplay loop is very nice, but I used a couple plugins to make my experience a little bit better. So I feel like just standard Golden Gate 2 might not be the best. I definitely recommend to add a couple plugins. I definitely feel like I just played it on normal because this is another game that has a difficulty slider. I'm not always the biggest fan of difficulty sliders. I can forgive New Balance because it adds many more mechanics. But for a game like Golden Gate 2, most of the enemies are just pre-existing from Gothic. They just have a different texture. There's been like 2 or 3 boss fights that have a bit more health and a couple mechanics, but otherwise most of the enemies are pretty much the same. So I feel like adding a difficulty slider is just making enemies more spongy for the sake of being spongy. But because it doesn't have the gameplay loop that New Balance offers, you're still stuck to the vanilla experience combat with too many extra difficulties. So you can think about Night of the Raven difficulty times 4. And do we all want that? Some of you probably do. I'm not in the mood for it all the time. All right. So I do feel like Golden Gate 2 is a very easy mod to play. I don't feel like it adds enough challenge. I don't remember struggling a lot throughout my experience of Golden Gate 2. I think the puzzles were a nice idea, but I feel like some of them were too easy and some of them were overcomplicated for the sake of adding a puzzle in your game. I feel like it wasn't that necessary. I think the characters, the romance in a way, because there's a bit of romance, the story are one of its stronger points. The armors are, I would say, mediocre. Some of them are pretty nice. Some of them are just reskinned. Most of the time, it doesn't add too many more outfits, so you're kind of just stuck to the vanilla experience with a retexture. So, and the mod is not that big. It's around 40 hours. The ending is very abrupt. It still feels very incomplete in a way, and somewhat unanswered questions. And I feel like there was such a big plot storyline, specifically about the mother of your character. You don't actually figure anything out about it after finishing the game. It really feels like there's going to be a Golden Gate 3. I don't know if it's confirmed, but in general, I never really liked the ending. But I liked everything, most of the other stuff. The island was beautiful. The locations were very well done. The puzzles were nice. Some of them complicated, some of them easy. I don't mind having them. I feel like it does add a bit of an extra different experience. Kind of like a jack of all trades. The combat was comfortable, easy, but also satisfying. And yeah, some of the characters were memorable. The music, which I forgot to talk about Archolos. So I'll talk about Archolos first. I don't know if Odyssey had its own soundtrack. I know the menu theme is different. Everything else doesn't. I know Renovation has one specific song in the undead territory that is different. And the other places don't have any new music as far as I'm aware. New Balance uses music from other games, so I can't really give them a point for it. Archolos music is fucking phenomenal. And the Golden Gate 2 soundtrack is also fucking phenomenal. It's one of the... that would have been a 10 out of 10 alone, just the music itself. But you're interested in the game in general. I would place Golden Gate slightly below Archolos. Nothing on D tier. if I have to put something on detail, you know what? Let's put one mod on the fucking detail for the sake of filling it up, because it feels unsatisfying to have empty spaces. Fucking bring Lever down there, bro. What a trash fucking mod. I mean, at least the specific one, all right. Not before you're gonna think I'm gonna be talking about other Lever editions. I'm talking that one. You know that image. You've seen it on Steam. This is my tier list for the current mods I've been playing. Yeah, love to talk about it. Love to hear your opinions. I'm sure you probably want to switch some things over. I'm not going to do it. I feel like this is pretty beautiful. Having New Balance, Archolos and Golden Gate 2 on S, Nostalgic on A, Gold Remaster and Odyssey on B, Atariar and Renovation on C, and Lever on D tier. So hopefully in a few years I can make another tier list with many more mods, because I will keep playing them. I will be doing Legend of Ashun after New Balance, so that's already a playthrough you can look out for, but it's gonna take a couple months before I'm done with New Balance. But by that time, we're gonna be starting with Legend of Ashun, unless there's another mod like Golden Gate 2 that comes out of fucking nowhere. I might switch it up, but Legend of Ashun, if there's nothing else coming out, that will be my next mod to play, and I'm very excited to do it. And then we'll see where it comes up in the tier list in the future. Anyways, I want to thank you all for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure. Hope you all had a great time me talking about random shit, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care, everyone. Peace.